Hey guys, welcome back to the Unfiltered Gamer Kickstarter board game review. Today's game tip-up is called Animagicians. In Animagicians, you're playing as a magician and you're entering a mansion and you're fighting monsters and liches. And you're trying to kill these liches and gain a certain amount of points, 10 points I believe in fact. And if you can gain those 10 points or kill the lich twice by yourself, you can become the winner. In the game, you're going to choose one of the magicians, and there is quite a lot to choose from. They all have their own special unique abilities. As well as going through the mansion, you're going to be going through all these different monster cards that pop up throughout the game, and they're going to be fighting you or following you. And as you place them in front of you, it depends on, they might fight you, they might fight your friends, and you're trying to cast spells or different actions on your turn to eliminate them. And as you go throughout your turns, more monsters could appear, other players can remove monsters from you or from themselves, as well as playing other action cards that affect this element deck. In the elements deck, you're going to get different types of elements, as well as different types of cards that either remove monsters, add monsters, or increase the different difficulties throughout the game. And as you play, you're going to then go throughout round by round. And during a round, if you cannot remove a monster that is actually chasing you, you will be chased out of the mansion for a round, and you will lose points. So you're trying to keep these points as long as possible, as well as stay in the mansion as long as you possibly can, gaining points until you can get to that coveted 10-point requirement. And if you can do so, you win the game. Anyway, let me go and show you the game. So here we have the contents for Animagicians. You can get the box as well as two separate decks. One's the magic deck and one's the mansion deck, which is going to have all the different creatures. You're also going to have different variants. So like it is 1 to 6 players, but in the single player variant, you're going to have to go through and collect quests, as well as in the 2-player, it's the cooperative variant. 3 through 6 is the competitive variant. So you're going to have these different quests, as well as these are the different reference cards, which will talk about the different styles of symbology in the game. And it has a language, different language on the back, as well as English on the front. I don't know which language it is. These are also going to be the different lich items you can get when you kill liches by themselves. You're going to obtain these items, and if you can obtain the last item with the special ability, you will win the game. Otherwise, you get those 10 coveted points. These are all the different characters throughout the games that you'll be getting. You can choose one to begin with, and they have a special ability as well as a bonus superpower ability once you get a certain amount of souls. And these souls are the points that you need to win the game. So you get soul points here. You can also get cages depending on if you're playing 1 or 2-player variant, and these are going to be what you need. You're going to need to do certain things with these guys. And that is the main contents of Animagicians. So to begin the game, you start off with 5 cards in your hand from this magic deck. And then after that, you're going to have your character with you, and you start off with no points, as well as you're going to get one of those character reference cards, which is very useful for symbology. Then you're going to get a monster. Everybody's going to get one in front of them, and it's going to tell you, well, it could be a monster, or it could be some other special card that lets you change the elements in some way, or do something, some kind of action. But in general, it's going to be a monster like this guy here, this little like pumpkin head skeleton. And it's going to tell you a couple things. The first thing it'll tell you is what you need to defeat it, what type of element. Over here on the top right hand corner, it's going to tell you which way it is facing and who it's going to be chasing. So if this is in front of you, it's actually going to chase the person on your right hand side. And on the other hand side, it's going to tell you the amount of points you can get when you defeat this monster. As multiple people defeat monsters, you will gain either 1, 2, 3, or no points depending on the style of monster. A power 3 monster, you can gain up to 3 points, but if 2 players fight it, you get 1, and if 3 players fight it, you get 1, and if 4 players fight it, you get nothing. In 2, it's kind of divided equally between the people who kill it. So you want to kill monsters all on your own if possible, but you always want to fight the ones that are facing you, because those guys will run you out of the dungeon. If you get run out of the dungeon, you are going to have to sit out for a round, and you're also going to lose a point, and you need those points to win the game. There's a wide variety of characters in the game, so you're going to choose one, and on your turn you can choose a couple of actions. The first action is to use your character ability. The second is to play any amount of element cards that you want to fight the monsters. And the third is to play an action card either in front of you if you have one and you got lucky enough to get one, or if you played one from your hand. After that, everybody else in turn order is going to play an action, and you're going to keep going around until everyone passes. Now, if everyone passes but yourself, you can keep playing actions until you choose to pass. After that, you're going to flip over all the cards that were put face down in turn order, and then you're going to target monsters. And as you target those monsters, then they are going to start taking damage. And if you're able to do all the, if everybody's able to kill the monsters with all the different symbologies, that monster will die and you'll gain points for the monster. If you can't kill the monster, it chases you out of the dungeon if it's following you. So be aware of that. After that, you're going to go on through the next round. Everybody's going to either get a card if they manage to survive the dungeon, as well as any points they acquired by killing monsters, either by themselves or together. Or if they get chased out, they're going to discard their hand and draw 3 cards, sit out a round, and then play the next round. And you're going to keep going until you kill 2 liches, and you gain these special cards: the Crown of Domination, the Sealing Vessel, and the Scepter of the Spider. They are both front and back cards here. Or you gain that coveted 10 points, which will make you win the game. All right, let me show you a couple rounds. So I've went ahead and set up a 3-player game for Animagicians, which means we're not going to be using the single-player variant as well as the cooperative variant where you have these specific quests and as well as these little canisters here. But you might be able to, you can go ahead and look at the Kickstarter and it'll tell you all about these other different variants of the game. I've also chosen these specific characters. We've got, it's both front and back as well, so you got the Fake Seer, you've got the Unspeakable Lady, and then the Avatar of Fury Reeves, and all these other characters that we won't be using for this one. You also have the 3 Lich cards, of which whenever the Lich pops up in front of you, if you're able to kill it by yourself, you can gain one of these cards. And if you're able to complete the objective on the card, you can win the game outright without having to worry about points at all. Otherwise, though, you're going to each get 5 cards from this magic deck. So you have 5 cards here. Oh, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. And 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 here. Then, after you've gone ahead and got your cards, you've got your little reference cards, and you've set up your souls over here, you're then going to flip over the mansion deck, revealing the different monsters and other things that pop up. Just like that, and you're going to begin the round. Now, if it's a monster, like I said before, you can fight it by killing it with whatever it says that you need to kill it here. It tells you the point total you can gain and where it's chasing. So this guy is actually chasing over here. He's fighting an avatar. And then you got these other 2. This one here is going to be an elemental changer. It stays on the field until a new one pops up, and when a new one pops up, this one goes away. So this one actually stays next to the player until that happens. And this lets him convert any of his water into fire if he wants. This one over here is an ability he can actually perform, and it gets rid of that. You can discard this card, target a player. That player gains one of these souls and also gains a monster in front of him. So it's a cool card he can use if he wants to gain a point, which is a good thing to do. So if he were to start the game, we would go ahead and take the first player token, which is actually this guy right here, and he can perform his actions. He can either perform to play any of the cards he has. There's a couple action cards here. There's a bunch of action cards here, and then there's the spells, which this is the forest one. There's earth and fire and water, but he could choose to do one of these. This one says he hides in the mansion, so he doesn't have to deal with any of the monsters this round, and he just hides, so he can't be killed. There's 2 of them there. There's this one, which makes him target a player and remove a monster that's in front of him, and then there's this one here, which lets him draw 2 cards from the deck. So this card is probably the one he'll play. So the first thing he'll do is he'll play his 1 card here, which lets him target a player and that player draws 2 cards. Then he is done. The next player can then go ahead and do the same thing. You look at his hand, he's got a lot of elements here, as well as a draw 3. He can also use his abilities. There's abilities here for each of the characters. If by using a card, if by using a card or power, a player draws 1 or more cards from the deck or of magic, or puts a monster in front of each player adjacent to that player. Whenever a player draws a card, basically, using one of these things here, they're going to have to put another monster out in front of the other player. So if he were to use this card here, letting him draw 3 cards from the deck, he would then have to put monsters next to the other players, and you could put additional monsters just like that. And you'd have to fight these monsters here. So he would be done with his action, and we would continue going on through the board. Let's see, let's do another action. Okay, this action is he can play cards face down. So he wants to play this. He wants to kill this guy, right? This guy is targeting this guy. Maybe he doesn't want to kill that guy. Nothing actually is going to affect him, because this one goes over here and fights this one goes over here and fights this one, and this one fights this one down here. But nevertheless, if he does kill them, he will gain points. So it might be a good idea to at least try and kill 1. So he can put these 2 cards face down. He can choose either fire or the forest card. He'll put them face down just like that. And if somebody plays wind, he'll be able to fight this monster and gain the points. Put these cards down, and it'll move to the next player, and you'll keep going around in the rounds playing cards face down. We got water. That's good. Water can kill this guy, and this guy's coming after him, so he needs to fight this guy. So put the water one down, and he's got earth, so maybe he would fight the earth guy, or this one over here, as well as water. So earth and water, you can put these guys down here. And that would be all the ones he could play. You can only play his elements, so this would sit to the side. And finally, we would go to the next player, and you would just keep going like that. This one actually has a wind. If he wanted to, he'd be playing this wind. He could play a fire. He could play a water. I mean, he has a lot to play. He can do some damage if he really wants to. So he could play all. He could play all 4 of these cards, or all 5, or all 6 if he wanted to. And then the next player would keep going. Does he want to use his ability? This one says choose a player. That player gives a card to at random from his hand, and you have to give a card from your hand. So if he didn't want this card here, he could go ahead and set this aside, take a card at random from another player, and put in his hand. He just happened to get the same green one and switch just like that. And then all players would end up passing. Sorry, this one goes to his hand. After every player passes, then the players are going to reveal in turn order. So the first player would reveal his cards, and he's going to target monsters on the field first. He would do damage to this monster here, and he would put damage on this monster here, because they're both fighting him, right? He could have also done this as well. He could have actually discarded this to gain a point, but he didn't want to do that because there's so many monsters on the field. The next player would also do the same thing. Maybe he'd place this here and this here, outright, or no, this here, outright killing this monster. And he also has to watch out because this one's fighting him too. Ooh, that's tough. What does he want to do? This. He's got 2 fire, so he can't deal with that. So that'd be all he could do. And then the next player here, he has some stuff too to deal with. This one would go over here. And this one would, yeah, I guess you could put it over here. And after that, you're going to then look at all of the cards and determine what monsters die and what monsters survive based on who played them. So if this one was played here, and there was only one person who played it on this monster, so this guy played it on this guy, he would gain 1 point for killing the monster. The monster would go in the discard pile, the spell would go over here, and he would gain 1 point. And then if you had this monster here, and he needed all 3 of those, and he happened to get them. This player, and this player all put in to fight this monster. Every player would get 1 point. I'm sorry, this guy would only get 1 point for killing the one monster. Sorry, they're front and back too. And these would all go away as well. And so would this. And finally, you've got this over here to fight this guy here, but I don't think, we do have it. We have water and we have earth. So this would kill this guy as well. And there's 2 points there, and these 2 fought it. So these 2 would get an additional point each. And luckily, no one got kicked out of the dungeon here. In fact, he had these extra ones too, which were needed. But no one got kicked out of the dungeon, which was nice. However, if this monster wasn't dealt with and he was here, this person would get flipped out, returned out of the dungeon, and he would flip over just like this, and he would lose 1 point, discard his hand of cards he has here, and then he would draw up to 3 cards and wait for the next round after the following one to do his actions. Luckily, that didn't happen, so it would stay up just like that, and more monsters would pop out again, just like this. And players that got run out of the dungeon would have to discard their hand and draw 3. And if you survived, everybody who survived would get an additional card. And you would keep going on like that. Now, as people keep playing, obviously here's another one here. This one is discard this card, target a player, and that player loses a monster in front of them, so he could play this. So this would switch to the next player, go here, and this player would be able to do whatever he wanted to do. He would want to fight this monster. He looks to see if he has any forest. He does. He has 1. He'll play that face down because he needs to kill this monster here. The next player would get to go, which would be this guy here. Maybe he'd choose to do this one, which would remove a monster from the field, but there isn't really anyone he wants to remove because this one doesn't affect him, so he can leave this here. So he would look on here. He's got another forest card, which he can actually help fight this guy. You can talk about it or not to keep it hidden, depending on how you want to do it. You also have these ones here. This one says add a monster and remove 1 from a person. And this one just says add a monster to somebody. So these are nasty, but they don't really help necessarily as far as gaining him points. And then the next player can look at his hand. He's also got a forest card he can put into play as well. And they would keep going. And eventually, when everybody passed, once again, you'd flip these all over. And all 3 of them would have fought this guy. Maybe these actions would have been used. This action would have been used as well. Maybe you had this one here because there's not a lot of monsters, so you can discard this. He would gain a point, and another monster would pop out. Oh, and this would actually make this guy go away because this one's here now, so he would be able to turn fire into wood, and you would keep going like that until someone was able to get all 10 points. Another way, obviously, as we go through this deck, if you find the Lich card, which looks just like this card here, and you can find, let's see if we can find it here really quick. There is, I believe, 3 of them in the deck right here. And as you can see, Liches always fight the player in front of them with a symbol here. There's 3 points. If somebody was able to fight this all by themselves, they could then collect one of these item cards, the crown or the vessel or the scepter of the spider. And if they were able to kill the next monster or kill the next Lich or read whatever it says this one, you can, when you cast spells against the Lich, your spells are considered to be all elements. And if you defeat the Lich without help, you destroy the soul with the scepter and you win the game. So that could be a way without having to use points to win the game with this player. But otherwise, it would basically go with points, and you'll be using these cards to determine what all the different card symbology does in the game Animagicians. Alright, so a couple caveats too. I kind of goofed a little bit on the rules. These guys here are relics. They're the ones that pop up in front of you from the monster deck, and they're going to be able to let you turn things into different elements or actually discard this card, minus a monster in front of you, or gain points at a monster in front of you. You can have one of these in front of you at any point in time, but if you get an additional one, you have to choose between the two, and both of these are relics. I actually originally thought that this one specifically was a relic, but the way we played it was actually that they're both relics, and you have to choose between them. Every player can have at least one, though, and if it comes down to having two, you have to choose and select which one. Otherwise, though, I think we discussed it pretty well. And that is the idea of how the game works, trying to gain those 10 points while also trying to stop your opponents from killing monsters, trying to make sure the monsters aren't targeting you or chasing after you. And if they are, you want to use those specific spell cards to make new monsters appear to where they chase other players. However, liches, when they pop up in the field, although they are attacking you specifically always, those liches are very beneficial because you're able to get these cards here, these crowns and whatnot, and that will help you win the game, especially if you're falling behind. That is a secondary way to win the game, which is a nice little addition to it, especially when somebody's so far ahead of you because you keep getting chased in the dungeon. Anyway, that is the idea of how Animagician works. Let me tell you what I think about it. So the first thing I want to say is there is a little bit of a language barrier with this game, and it is translated rules. So it's a Kickstarter game, and the rules may change, vary based on how the campaign goes or however they want to do it. But nevertheless, how it is played now, when I played it, we played it the 2-player cooperative way, which is very interesting, as well as the solo player. There's a lot to talk about with those, though, so you should just check it out in the Kickstarter campaign. Let's talk about the competitive rules. That's what I'm going to mainly focus on for this review. First of all, the artwork is really cool. I really like this game, and you can tell it's a prototype copy, so don't judge it based on that. There is going to be the chits are made of cardboard. It's almost like a homemade version, which is really cool actually, the way they did the box and all that. I'm really excited to see what it looks like when it's fully done. I do like the fact that monsters pop up throughout the game and you're trying and push them away from you while killing them all at the same time. Sometimes you won't mind them being on you because you can use those cards specifically to kill them, that are the elemental cards, while as other times you're not going to be able to kill them and you have to use specific actions, whether it's your character card, your special character ability, or your super special, which is when you get a certain amount of souls. For instance, this little guy here, the little Seer I was talking about, which is the first one I played with, when you first start, you can actually choose a card at random from an opponent's hand. You take that card and give them a card of your choosing. When you get up to 5 souls or higher, you can then just take a card after looking at their hand and put it into yours. Very powerful. All of them are very powerful, and they're all very different, as well as some of them require more or less souls depending on the specific character, and there's a wide variety of characters to choose from. I like the addition too of the Lich and how these cards work, so that the game actually gives you the benefit of, if you're not winning with points, you can still win by killing that Lich on your own. However, everybody wants to kill that Lich, so if somebody plays a card on it with you, it might be very difficult for you to pull that off. Otherwise, though, the fighting with the points and all that, it's very simple as far as if you all fight it and it's worth 3 points, and you have 3 players fighting it, you're going to get a shared pool of points. If it's 2 players fighting a 3, you get 1 point each. If it's 2 players fighting a 2, you get 1 point each. And if it's 2 players fighting a 1, no one gets points. So if you have more players than you have points, then nobody gets any points. So you have to be careful about which monsters to fight with, to fight against. And the more players in the game, I think, the better, because it makes it a lot easier for you to go ahead and determine where you want to throw your cards down, specifically because nobody's really worried about fighting the monsters that are chasing you when they've got monsters on their butts. The also cool addition of the monster deck not always just being full of monsters, but actually full of actions that can be helpful or even extremely negative towards you, as well as the relics that can help you change the different colors, the different things. Like for instance, this one is Earth to Light, is very, very useful. And having to select between the two, it does come with some kind of strategic decision-making skills. There is a bit of luck as to what cards you draw. However, the amount of cards you're pulling out of the deck compared to what you can kind of cycle through does definitely balance the game out. It's a very fun little competitive game, especially in the competitive variant. I did enjoy the cooperative variant as well, but I think the competitive variant is even more fun because there's so much banter going on and people pulling cards, as well as the more higher points the game gets, the higher the stakes get in the game because you're able to use those really special abilities. Those liches are very, very dangerous as well, and you do not want to get chased out of the dungeon, because if you do, you are going to lose points, and you don't want to do that because you lose 1 round plus you lose the points you would have gained from the round you lost, that you had to get kicked out of, unless you did enough damage to equate to make the difference up. Nevertheless, though, a very, very fun game, Animagicians. I really do recommend checking out the Kickstarter. Well, thanks for watching the Unfiltered Gamer Kickstarter board game review. If you like this review, like to see more, go and check out our other videos here on YouTube. Like, subscribe, and comment. It all helps, and we do greatly appreciate it. Also, check out Animagicians, currently on Kickstarter, in the description below. I saw the original campaign they did, and this is the secondary version with different rules, because I actually went through both of them to see how the original was played, and I think these are definitely better than the original ones, especially the artwork on this game. The artwork is so much better. I really do like it. It's very like Castlevania style. It feels like I'm going through the castle of Castlevania, fighting against liches and all that. I just really like that feel of the game. Also, go ahead and check out our website, unfilteredgamer.com. Tons of blog posts, giveaways, Kickstarter lists, and more. We have a giveaway going on right now for Villains and Vigilantes, so if you're interested in checking that out, please go do so. It's free to the subscribers. You just go ahead and click on the link, and it'll take you straight there. Alright guys, also go ahead and check out our affiliate sites or partner sites, everythingboardgames.com, the Giveaway Geek, and devitosgaming.com. Tons of blog posts, giveaways, and Kickstarter lists, tons of stuff, even more than my own site. I do recommend especially their giveaways. Got a lot of them. I like that. Alright guys, well that is it for this video, and once again, as always, I look forward to seeing you next time.